to the Haven Hang. I am saxophonist and vocalist Camille Thurman, and this is our second season, fourth session, and I'm really delighted and happy to have today with me some amazing musicians that I'm really happy to call my sisters. Please give a warm welcome to Tia Fuller, Shamie Royston, and Mimi Jones. Hey, everybody!
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
Oh, it's so
Hanging in
great to
there.
have you. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We finally got it together.
I
Right?
know. It's crazy trying to get all of us together at one space at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate everybody making the time for this. And I'm sure we have a lot of listeners, especially some young lionesses that want to hear us just rap and talk. So the first question I want to ask you is, what made you want to get involved in this business and be a musician and make a career doing it? We could start off with anybody who wants to jump in.
Shami, go ahead.
Do that. It's always Tia like, Shamie, go ahead.
You're the oldest.
Oh my gosh.
I grew up around music all my life. Our parents were jazz musicians, and so for me, I've always, ever since I was like 4 or 5, I've always really been involved in music. I didn't know at that, of course, when I was younger that I was going to do this as a profession. I just knew I loved to play piano, and I would pick songs off the radio and, try to do what I could to enhance my craft. At the time, I was playing classical piano. My parents are jazz musicians, so it's always been a part of me. But probably in high school, I started getting involved in jazz in college. And basically from then on, I just, I knew I wanted to be a musician. I knew I wanted to do this as a profession, to play and to make music of any kind, because it was just embedded in me to do that as a child. So that's kind of like the short answer.
Mimi.
Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, okay. Paybacks. So yeah, ironically enough, for those who don't know, Shami is actually my sister, like blood sister, biological sister. So as a child, I think of course our parents exposed us to music, but I was really trying to be like her when I grew up. And because she's if I can say this, the little big sis. She's the elder one, but she's shorter. Um, but I remembered seeing she and her band, Jacques Nouveau, was band based, or when they had started. I think it was back in college, right, Shami? And,
Yeah.
and just kind of sitting on that. I remember dreaming, like sitting on the stairs and listening to them rehearse. And it was something that just kind of came over me. I was like, I want to do this too. And I kind of felt left out. I mean, in our family, because mom and dad, everybody played, and we had a Fuller band, or a family band called Fuller Sound. And yeah, it was a combination of that. And then once I actually blew into the saxophone, it was it for me. It took me a second, but it was really it, because I knew that it had an overwhelming effect on me. I felt really empowered. I was playing flute before that, and just dealing with half of the air escaping the instrument, and the other one going through. It was like once I blew into the saxophone, it was automatically a connection. So,
And she took piano lessons and
oh,
threw the piano book across the room because she hated it.
Thanks.
Oh, y'all are so cute. Aw. Well, for me, it was kind of natural, I guess, because my parents played a lot of different types of music in the house. They would kind of I guess, put it on to make us clean up and do like our chores. And I just remember there was always music going on, and it could be like elevator music, you know, like some early pop stuff. It could be like funk, R&B, soul, a lot of jazz. And I didn't like jazz. I was like, why jazz? Like, can we just listen to like LL Cool J or something, you know? And my father was like, it's gonna grow on you. And like a lot of people, I fell in love with Michael Jackson and everything that was Michael Jackson, and I wanted to be in his band. So I told my father I want to play guitar in Michael Jackson's band. He was like, you got to take lessons, and that's where it all started. I went to the Harlem School of the Arts, and he was like, you got to learn classical guitar first. And I was like, really? So he was like, if you get good on it, then you can get your electric guitar. And that was the progression. I finally got the electric guitar. And then I went to high school, and there was no guitar teacher. So that was a bummer. I had to switch to either cello or some type of string instrument. And that just, I didn't have a voice on a cello. So then I ended up fooling around with my friend's bass. It was so cool. So during lunch period, I'd be like, this is nice. I want to play this instrument. And the band director saw me doing that. And he was like, oh, you play bass? We need a bass player. And I was like, no. He's like, yeah. You read bass claps. So next thing you know, I was in the jazz band, and like my father told me, I fell in love with it and began to realize how awesome it really was. And it was kind of a wrap. I mean, I play all styles of music. It's still in me. But I guess the jazz, it's just, it's a challenge to learn. Like, as we all know, is difficult. So I feel like I'm still trying to get it, but I'm having a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
that's,
So, what was a defining moment for all of you that made you realize, okay, I think I want to make a career out of this, coming out of high school and coming out of college?
You said a defining moment, like a, oh,
That made you realize, okay, I want to make a career out of this.
yeah. I think for me, it was actually through failure, ironically enough. It was, I think my senior year, I had a solo on soprano on this big band version of I Hear Rhapsody.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this solo on soprano. And you know, Camille, soprano is 50. And then we're in high school just trying to get the sound out of it. So I remember I played
Yeah.
the written solo and I squeaked all over it. I don't know what happened. I think my reed was just a mess. And so I was really down. And I remember afterward, one of my friends was like, Tia, it's okay. Um, I, they said, Tia, I think they said something like, I see your name in lights or something. Just keep going. And it was at that moment where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this soprano sound good for one, but I really I wanna pursue this music because I love it and because I see that it's an opportunity to constantly chase after something,
Yeah.
especially after the squeaky moment. So it was during that point where I was like, wow, I could really do this if I just really put my mind to it. And then shortly after that, I think being at Spelman was also transformational for me. I knew that I wanted to do it at that point, but actually putting it into action and like being really diligent with practicing, creating like a practice schedule every day, and yeah, sacrificing certain things to make sure I was practicing. Like that's where everything was put in motion for me.
Yeah. Shamie, Mimi.
For me, I think I recognized it maybe my senior year in high school. I entered this competition and a arts competition, and so I had like two keyboards and like three keyboards set up with a drum machine. I did this whole arrangement, and I got up on the stage, played it, had a little purple dress on, and I was like doing stuff, and I was like, yes. And I didn't even win. This guy who played David Sanborn or something won. And everybody was like, what? But I was like,
Oh, I mean,
that was a defining moment for me, because I was like, I really put my all into what I created, because I was composing like way back then. I was young. I was just trying to figure stuff out. But it was kind of like I enjoyed being up on the stage and performing and playing, and it was just me, which was different from being like, in a big band. And then it kind of got solidified more when I went to college, and I would hear like Jerry Allen. I think I was in college, and I heard her on this M-bass stuff, and I was like, wait, this is a woman playing piano like this? I was like, wait a second. And that was really the defining moment, because it was like, at that moment, I recognized there was somebody, a Black female woman, who was playing their butt off. And like, from then on, she became my mentor before she even knew she was my mentor. And that's when I knew, I was like, I got to do this thing, because I see that it can be done, and I have the drive to do it.
Yeah.
That's nice. There were a couple of moments. One major moment was I got to be a part of the Jazz in July summer camp, and I saw Max Roach's band. That was amazing. And then came Fort Apache with Larry Willis and Jerry Gonzalez. And man, I was like, I want to do that. Like, it was so cool. They were just the bomb, and the magic that came off the stage was crazy. And I just knew it, that this would work. And then, of course, when I learned later on that we could get paid to do this and travel and stay in a nice hotel, what? And they feed us? This will work. Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think what's really cool about what each of you said is that moment where you felt empowered by playing. And I think for a lot of young women, becoming familiar or learning to embrace that moment of that I feel empowered, I can do this, is kind of makes us motivated to keep developing. Because a lot of times I think, I mean, this is just my thought. I don't know how you feel about this too, but when young ladies are learning to play instrument, or when they're at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, society kind of has this thing where we don't have a lot of examples of women pouring into themselves, feeling empowered. It's more kind of like this and do that, but it's very far removed from us identifying with, wow, this makes me feel good and I feel empowered. Could you speak on that?
Can I go? It's so ironic because I just got off the phone with the sister that I haven't talked to in almost a decade, actually more. Her name's Brooke. She's a violinist and out of Atlanta, and she's really amazing. And we were just talking about, the importance of redefining like what it is to be a strong woman or a strong Black woman. Especially Black women in this culture, we have had to sacrifice self so much. And just looking at the cultural and the historical ramifications of slavery, and how certain things that we've seen on a cultural level is not necessarily it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not advantageous for us. It's not a positive, because we were dealing with the residual of the Middle Passage, and and how we showed up in our families, but also slave owners. And so there's certain practices there. For lack of me being long-winded, it's just certain practices of nurturing herself, basically. So looking at redefining what a strong Black woman is, and being able to get to certain points of us saying no and not feeling guilty about it, or us showing up for ourselves instead of constantly showing up for everybody else. And So yeah, I think this is something that's really near and dear to me that I've been speaking about a lot, just because, you know, me and my sister's mother, um, she had a stroke, and she didn't drink or didn't smoke, but it was stress, and I think we all kind of saw signs of it, and I think she saw signs of it too, but wasn't able to figure out what it was to pour back into herself. So this is, yeah, this is just something that I think that we have to continue to speak about more openly and on a real level.
Yeah. Mimi, Shamie. Oh, I can't hear you, Shamie.
Oh, can you
Okay.
can you unmute yourself, Mimi? Oh,
I was trying. It
oh,
was
okay.
not letting me unmute. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, my sound went weird too. Go ahead, Mimi.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say absolutely to everything that Tia said. You know, we are not used to seeing ourselves in that light. We're also not used to seeing ourselves being treated a certain way and being taken care of. Therefore, because it took me a long time to figure out, why am I not able to easily get to my practice, my instrument, and have the success that I feel like for the amount of time and work that I've been putting into this. And not to make any excuses, you really have to fight for it and drop everything to make that happen. But you're also in survival mode constantly, because who's gonna feed you? Who's gonna pay your bills? Who's gonna make sure that you're tucked in at night okay? Who's gonna make sure you got clothes? Who's gonna make sure your hair is done? Who's gonna make sure? There is so much, and it's not like distractions of, I'm just gonna not do this. I don't feel like doing this. It's literally you struggle to make sure that you're cool as a human.
Yep.
And then, you know, to have to do it. And when you're young, if you're fortunate, your parents will help you, and that's great. But the other thing that comes to pass, which is a ramification of what Tia had said, is that we won't have instilled in us that fire to do it for ourselves. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we'll do everything to get to our instrument. And there's a thing that comes up like a question mark of like, wait, am I, not am I allowed, but am I, is this for me? Can I do this? Is it okay if I do this? And in the moment that you have that question, it happens at jam sessions, it happens, in times when you're on the stage, voices come in your head and you're like, I know that I'm better than this, but I'm just so nervous because you haven't been doing this a lot. You don't have a lot of opportunity and a team of people behind you driving that into you. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think of Beyonce, man, she's flawless. Of course, 100%, she's super talented. But so are a lot of people. If you don't have a team behind you with a plan and a smart plan and keeping it real, funding, and the intelligence to know how to maneuver the funding and what you need, basically somebody focusing on like what it is that you're trying to do, this is hella hard. So we're having to do like 18 jobs. Cause now with COVID, we got to be the engineer, the sound man, the lighter. We didn't have to do all that before. But when you add that on top of being your own mother and father protector, you know what I'm saying? Your own cook, taking care of your body, making sure that, things are just the way that they need to be for you to show up, to just look decent. Because if you come in looking frumpy, it's a wrap. You're going to get you're not going to even be considered. So there's a lot. And with that, there's always been that in any profession for us. So, and somehow we've been able to overcome that. So I try to tap into the ancestors and just think about, damn, you know, they had it even harder than this. I can do this. But in a way, that's temporary too, because then that stress is still on you. It's important to find a way to decompress, to find a way that you can sit down and have a lunch. And you're not like running and eating, or damn, I forgot to eat. So you did a great show, but you feel sick at the end, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm talking a lot, so I'm gonna shut up, but I think we know where this is going.
Oh, that's real though.
it is real.
Because that, like, people see you up on stage. Sorry, Sean was.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. It's almost like being you almost have to be a little this is hard for me to say, but a little selfish. I'm probably the least selfish person, because on top of all of that, then as a woman, you have other things, you know, that you're dealing with, just like your Tia said. But then you have, then you taking care of kids and doing all that. You're giving up yourself, but when you have time for you to get to your instrument, to practice, do what you need to do to support yourself. That's why when Mimi says it's important to have a team, you can't do it by yourself. It's important to have that team. Definitely. We're all fours, Camille, Mimi, Tia, we've all been like a team for years. Support each other. And not just musical. I'm just talking about just daily support. And how we feel in the day. You know, that's important.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're saying that we rely on each other, because a lot of times too, it's interesting because when young women, I guess, when we learn instruments, the process of trying to hang on to that instrument, develop the discipline to stay with it, develop the support, the moral support to kind of believe in yourself and have the confidence to continue it and grow. And then when you get to that point where you're by yourself, or you're an adult and you're breaking into the scene, you really do need your sisters and your brothers to really help you in staying in check, also staying in balance, because it's really hard to do it by yourself, especially when you're trying to figure things out and it's all brand spanking new.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that's the power and the importance of these. You know what you've been doing with Haven Hang, just bringing that awareness to young ladies so that they can start being prepared, you know, more so prepared. Because I think all of us learned it was more so on the job training. There was a
Right.
certain level of mentorship, but I mean, it's great to continue to have these conversations, just so
Yeah.
that they can be well equipped, or more so at least than us.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
have, sorry.
I don't know. I was just gonna say real quickly, in harvesting relationships, you know, like really maintaining them. If we go back in history with the four of us right here, it's like everybody has a different relationship with the other one, but
Yep.
it's all connected somehow. But it's in the history is crazy, and we have literally saved each other's lives at times, you know, and it's just a beautiful thing. So it's real talk, you know.
Yeah. And also too, those who are listening out there, it's okay to reach out to other women and sisters. Sometimes I notice there's a divide, and I don't know if it's because it's survival, like I gotta be the best, I gotta do what I gotta do, prove my own. But sometimes there's a distance between interacting, and totally fine to interact with other. In fact, it's probably one of the best things to do, because there's things about being a woman and doing this that, unless you're talking to somebody who's been there, done that, you're going to be hitting a lot of walls and wasting a lot of time. For me, I was very grateful to have three of you, because y'all saved my behind at 22, 23 years old when I didn't know what I was doing. So, could you talk about some of your influences? Shamie said something so important about being able to see what's manifesting, being able to choose. what it is that you want? Like, who are the people that inspired you to do this? Like, okay, I can do this.
Well, for me, back in Colorado, there was a scene, and there was a trumpet player. His name was Ron Miles, and I mean, he's still out. He plays with Brian Blade, and but he had a band, and for me to to be a part, I wanted to be a part of the band. So he was actually one of my inspirations because he always kind of nurtured me and would talk to me about just being a great musician. And then of course, just not me knowing her, but Jerry Allen was crucial for me, because she was a woman and I didn't know her. I was living in Colorado, and so I would just listen to her stuff all the time. Like I could sing her every solo, every song all the time. And then when I moved out here to New York, I got a chance to meet her. The first time I met her was at the Monterey Jazz, and I felt like a kid in a candy store. I was like, oh my God, it's Jerry Allen. And then I was like, you've been my mentor before you even knew me. And then like at that point, we both developed a relationship where we actually did a concert at Berkeley together. I wrote pieces for her, but she was a huge mentor because she's been through the scene. And so she was real crucial, especially when I moved out to New York, because it was a rough transition from Colorado, to the East Coast. And it was good to have her to talk to and to look up to, and just to listen, learn from on all different levels. It wasn't just musically, but just on all different levels. So she's probably, I could say, one of my main influences when I moved out here.
Mimi, you're on mute.
You would think I have this down by now. I was gonna say, for me, early on I met four amazing people. There was Rodney Jones, great guitarist. He was super supportive, and he kind of came in a package with the great Jesse Hameen. He was also a great what do you call it, drummer, and they really pushed me as a youngster to do this. When I got kind of like into Manhattan School of Music, or upon going, I met Linda McKnight, and she was a classical bassist, big, beautiful woman, and she just made sure I had all my essentials down on the instrument. She was very meticulous about things, so that kind of instilled in me to not, be mediocre about things, and be clear and make sure that things were together. And I like where she lived. She lived behind Lincoln Center, and I was like, how does she live there? Wow, people live in places like this. This is cool. I want to do this. So, stuff is like going on in your head as you're kind of coming up. Then skip ahead, I met Lyle Atkins, amazing bassist, played with Betty Carter, Nina Simone, a line of people that we know, and he was like my rock. He really made me shed on the bass, the whole register, and I never felt like creeped out by him. I want to mention that when you say mentors to me, I get a little like, ooh, because I didn't take advantage of most mentors that I wanted to call upon, because I was always feeling uncomfortable around them. A lot of the adult males, I think this was like way before Me Too. And, before anybody probably mentioned anything about anything. So there were a lot of creepy people. Some are still living. And I kind of hid, and I felt like that really hurt me, because you need those relationships when you're coming up. You need people to put a stamp on you and say, check that one out. Like Mark Carey, he told Betty Carter, check her out. So it's important to have that. I feel like we're maybe at a better place now, where women can speak out more, and it's, men know that if you do something, it's going to come up to the forefront. That doesn't stop them, but it may make them think about it. So that leads me to, there are a lot of people I'm leaving out for the sake of time, but one of my favorite people still alive today, his name is Mike T.A. Thompson, and he is my bona fide mentor, because he was the one that was like, this music doesn't define you, and I want you to do other things. And I was like, but what do you mean? I was gonna go get a job with UPS because I like nice things, and coming up as a young adult, I couldn't afford it. I got tired of eating bagels and, just being hungry all the time and running around. And he was like, I want you to keep practicing, but I want you to go study real estate before you get that job. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to get that job tomorrow. And he was like, no, you gotta go study. I want you to study. And that changed my life, because it opened my mind up to the business side of the music. Because he was a musician, he understood what it meant, and he wasn't saying to stop playing, but he was saying, be smart about what you're doing. You need to figure a way that you can sustain yourself, whether it's in the music or outside the music. So I want you to have a basket of different eggs going on. And so because of that, I feel like it really, really helped me, and it saved my life, So so that's Michael T.A. Thompson. So I have been other mentors, but and now I'm trying to reach out. I'm trying to be a little bit more diligent about reaching out to people and, feeling safe. Maybe I'll take a girlfriend with me, or my husband, or I'll drop a name or something, and it's usually really cool. Nobody messes with me anymore. I'm getting older anyway, but
Tia.
Let me see. My influences, well, outside of my family, and like I said, Shamie. Um, so one thing about our dad is that we used to be on gigs, and he used to yell at us on stage, talking about play, 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 play. And we'd be Shamie be over here like this, and I'd be, and to a certain degree, I realized that created a certain sense of urgency in our sound, to where once I moved to Atlanta, I had something in my sound, and which leads me to my teacher, Joe Jennings, who was very influential at Spelman College, because I was one of the only I was one of the only students who wanted to major in jazz, and it was like I was one of the only two, actually. And so I really got under his wing, and he was just telling me to go, go, go. And he taught me some very influential, just certain things to do on the social scene. Because, of course, I was always one of the only, or the only woman sitting in. And because I didn't go to conservatory, I felt like I had to be extremely intentional about creating a school outside of my school that still reflected the level that I was moving toward. And so I was really strategic with just going and sitting in 3-4 times a week. And another major influence is Terry Gully, and great drummer. And he used to pick me up at Spelman Gate. He'd be like, we're going to Yin Yang Cafe, and we're sitting in. And so all of that, like the urgency had kind of carried over from Colorado, but then I was able to kind of put it into real time. Another result is to being in Atlanta is, like, I think just being at Spelman itself, I was looking around and all these sisters were excellent in what they did. They were all valedictorian. They were all beautiful. They were all killing it in whatever they did. And so for me, I was like, man, I'm over here, playing the saxophone. I need to be killing it too on this. So that whole element of Black excellence was really drilled into us. And then also sisterhood, making sure that you got your sisters back. So yeah, and then when I moved on to New York, major influences, of course, Ralph Peterson has been a major influence. Terry Lynn Carrington, she's been a great mentor. Even T.S. Monk, Cecil Brooks III used to have this club that was right around the corner from my house in Orange, New Jersey, called Cecil's. And there I met so many musicians such as T.S. Monk, and I ended up playing in his septet. And we used to have all these different conversations, and Cecil would sit me down and say, Tia, what you need to be doing, try this, So I realized that I'm standing on their shoulders because a lot of what they were pouring into me, I've kind of tucked away, and now this is just coming to me now, actually, because I didn't realize I was doing it. But there's certain things that he would sit me down and say, you need to try this, or make sure when you take pictures, do this, and just small things that now I've been implementing in my life. So yeah, it's been many, many others. Rufus Reed, yeah, but my sisters right here, you all have been the most influential because I've seen you get up so many times, and we've been lifting each other up. And to me, you all are some of the most important influences that I've had. And I'm really thankful because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for y'all. For real, I would not be here.
Oh. Each of you said something important about the people that you got to play with, and I think it's important for young ladies and young guys too, but especially for young ladies to really understand why it's so essential to play with other people, especially elders that can kick your butt and make you feel like crap at times. Could you share what you were able to pull from your experience of playing with the elders? I know, Tia, you said you worked with Ralph. Could you talk about why is it so important for young ladies to seek out people to hit with, to develop?
Yeah, I think in every situation, especially being with the leader, you learn one how you can lead, and you learn certain things that you may not want to do as a leader because it was ineffective. And Ralph was an extreme. He is. I'm still getting very emotional when I talk about him because he's made such a large impact on my life, and I felt like that I really didn't dig into him as much as I could have. But the impact that he made is a major imprint, not only as a leader, how to communicate to certain people while you're doing gigs. I remember we were at a gig, I think you might have been on this one, and he was talking about the sound as to he likes to hear his drums coming through the monitor. And I was like, that's kind of weird. He's like, nah, you need to put your sound coming through the mic. Because if I can hear myself, then the level comes down. And then I remember him cursing the sound guy out. And I was like, oh, Ralph, ah. So all of that to say that he too, in his compositions, were very influence for my composition. Just based off of playing with him, made an imprint and a certain sound that I was getting to at the time that I was writing certain songs. So yeah, he's really instrumental in my growth and me doing what I'm doing.
I have to say something about Ralph too. Just he was very real and raw when he would tell you how you played, how you should phrase, just everything, but loving all at the same time. And for me, he was very impactful in how I wrote, how I would write my music, because I would reach out to him and say, hey, can I have this chart just to study it? Can I have this chart just to look over it and study it? And he would send it to me immediately. He would send, and then I'd be like, Ralph, I'd call and be like, Ralph, what were you thinking about? Like the whole shape of all of his music I fell in love with. And so compositionally, he was very inspirational to me. A lot of people don't know that. Ralph knows it, because I would be like, I'm just trying to be like you. But he was, he was so inspirational. And that's what I'm saying. It's not just for playing, it's for all music, where it's important to be around elders, because they can give you the knowledge that you think you know, but you really don't. Like, I knew I could write, but the way that he came about writing some of the things, I'm like, wow, I never thought about it like that. Or even like Terrence Blanchard, you know, he was another one that was very inspirational in my writing. And just to talk to them and see the way how they think about their compositions, it framed how I would write music. So it wasn't just the playing aspect, but it was also my compositional aspect, and talking to other people, the elders who have been playing out there, and saying, why'd you do this? Why you did that? So it's real important to have somebody like that in your life to help move you in the process of where you need to go.
Yeah, and they also teach you how to play with that fire. Like I remember when I first started playing with Charlie Persip. I remember when I told Miriam I had the gig, I was like, Miriam, I got the gig with Charlie Persip. How? What am I gonna do? And that was like one of the best experiences I had, because he taught me how to play tempos and how to play with fire and not be afraid to just jump in, because that's part of my job as a horn player. You have to be able to jump in the fire without blinking and keep it and pass the torch and keep it going. Shamie, did you have some? Oh, Mimi, did you have some words?
Yes. That's so funny you bring up Charlie Persip, because I quit that band. I couldn't hang because he would be yelling at me on stage. I'm like, dude. But it was great, because it definitely helped me to grow another layer of skin, which I needed. So, but I was gonna say, definitely Jesse Davis and Antoine Maroney. Lord, oh man, every weekend at the with what is now Smoke, used to be called Augie's, everybody came up in that piece, and Christian McBride turned it out like. And these cats, they wouldn't tell you what tune it was. They'd just be like, okay, let's play. Okay, you're gonna sit in next. And they would just go. And I fell on my face 100 times in there, but I never gave up, and they always let me come back and sit in. So, you know, that was really important, that getting back up, like going home feeling like crap, which can still happen even now. You know, you could have a bad gig, but you pick yourself up, you lick your wounds, you think about what you could have done better, and get back out there. Another what you call it, person. Well, speaking in terms of Ralph, one thing I loved about Ralph was that he always showed up 100%. I don't care if it was a little dinky gig. He always dressed to the nine. He treated it like, we're gonna rehearse. The music has to be like this. If you were playing out of tune or you know, messing it up, it's like, stop. You gotta stop and get it right. And he definitely instilled that in me, that belief system in yourself, even if no one else recognizes it. Like, he'd show up with all his CDs, and he's like, we're gonna sell these today. And I'm like, wow, he believes in himself. And I took a little piece of that, and I'm still trying to implement that into my life now. What you call it? There was one other scenario that really pushed me, but in talking, I kind of like forgot about what it is. But I'm just really thankful. Oh, I used to play with Mark Turner and Joshua Redman, and that really made me want to get better. You know, being in Manhattan School of Music with people like Eric Harlan and Jason Moran and those cats. And than just, seeing how like Darren Barrett just killing. Like they were really, really playing. And when they couldn't, get up in that music, they would just go home and shed until they get it. And that discipline right there is just crucial. I wasn't able to lean into that back in the day, but I am ready to do that now because of the things we talked about earlier. My family was in New York City. I had to make sure they were cool, or I didn't have to, but I felt that need to do that because I realized culturally that's what we do. But now I'm like, all right, you guys have had my attention. It is time for me to do me. So I'm excited.
Yeah, can I add just a little bit?
Yeah.
And everybody mentioned this, but I think it's also like regarding Ralph and all these other amazing people that we played with, it forced us to play up. Like we were constantly reaching towards something outside of what we had already done. And Donald Harrison was talking about Ralph. This was on a Zoom call before he passed, like a week before. He was like, "Man, Ralph, he taught me, he would end my phrases for me." And it's like, how do you, function like that? It's you think it's your solo, but in actuality, a player like that, and Terry does that too. Like, oh no, you stopping right here. I'm going to break it down, or really showing direction, and placing yourself around those individuals. Like I remember sitting in, I would strategically play after Sean Jones or Bruce Williams, after he was like, and because it would force me to play up. And I'm realizing how important that is because if we're playing, with our peers all the time, we can grow, but that trajectory can be way quicker. Just being around those who are pushing us.
That's so true. I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask this quick question because we had a few people submit some questions for everybody here. The first question is from Ava. She says, "Hi, my name is Ava. I first just want to thank you for this. As a biracial 14-year-old female who loves this important art form that is jazz, I'm so appreciative of these engaging and inspired conversations because they're really so imperative for creating good change in our society. My question is, where does one find the courage to use their voice and to speak up? Of course, this is a very generalized question, but women have inherent fears about our role or place in the world. I think that's just a fact, but how do we not let that fear or the mindset that we will never be good enough? How do we not allow that to take control of our decisions and actions? Is there something you tell yourself that is a reminder to be unapologetic about living and being more than worthy to have a chance to succeed?"
That was a lot. Positive affirmations to yourself all the time. Speaking to yourself all the time, because that is something that I think all of us have had to do. You want to speak up, but you won't, or you're feeling like you can't do it. That voice in your head, that's a battle. That's no joke. I'm not gonna lie, that's no joke. You gotta, it's like you gotta fight through it. Say, you know what? I am good enough. I am able to do this. I am strong enough to get through this circumstance, or I am strong, powerful enough to play this gig. Just because I'm new on the gig doesn't mean I can't play. Like all of it, it's a constant battle, but you have to speak. Or sometimes what I started doing is I started having what do you call it? Like another person in what do you call that?
Alter ego?
Yeah. You have to have an alter ego sometimes. And I had to learn that. I didn't always do that, but people who know me know like I'm really kind of quiet. I'm shy. I'm not really talking a lot. Over the years, it's become more, I've become more vocal, but it's like, okay, I'm quiet, shy, or shy. I'm so tired. Shy and quiet, Shamie. But when I get on that piano, it's like, okay, here we go. Here we go. And it's like, take no prisoners. And then I'll get off and be like, hi. I'm Shamie. I get on that piano, it's like I had to become somebody else. And it was to help me. It was to help me battle through my insecurities and my doubts. So that's hard to do, but sometimes you have to do it because it's just like you got to speak positivity into yourself, even on the gig. Be like, I got this, I got this, I got this. Because you got all kind of stuff. You scared, you playing with heavyweights and, playing in a live audience with thousands of people going on right before Chick Corea, all kind of stuff. And you're just like, I got this, I got this, I'm scared to death. And then I'd sit at that piano and it was just like me and the piano. And then that's what it was. And then I get off the piano, I was like, oh, that was okay.
Can I add something real quick to that? Because that is the truth. You would not be given that opportunity. The idea would not come in your head. You would not be in the presence of whatever it is if you weren't supposed to be doing that. So just walk with it. Part of it is learning on the job and just knowing. And it takes time to get this, but like Shamie said, sometimes you got to pretend. If you got to go into acting mode, do that. Just act like look like you know what you do. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't be given something you can't handle because you asked for that. So whatever higher power it is gonna put you right in position to do the work for what you want to accomplish.
And if I could leave this young sister, 14-year-old, that's a great question with a couple of scripture. One is, I'm the head and not the tail. Another one is, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And these are all affirmations that I used to say to myself, and I still do actually on a daily basis. Another one is, greater is he or the spirit within me than he or the spirit within the world. And just knowing that whatever God has placed inside of you is greater than that spirit that's trying to come against you. And the spirit can be just those thoughts.
Yeah. And I would also add too, anytime you start feeling nervous or like you feel like you can't do it, just stop whatever you're doing, inhale, exhale, and just visualize yourself going through the process and just being there at the end. I know for me, there's many times where I felt like nervous because there was a passage that I spent 15 hours going over and over, or you're working on your doubles, or you're trying to execute stuff. And then that moment comes and you feel like when you see it. But then if you just take a big deep breath and like, I got this, and just say a prayer and just do it, that's all you can do. Because you also have to be logical about it too. You spent the time, you paid your dues, you invested in your art form and in your craft by practicing. So you have to trust and know and believe that you did the job that you were supposed to do, and you just have to leave it to God or leave it to the universe to just let it manifest and the work pay off. Yeah. Real quick, any words of wisdom or advice for young ladies out there listening that you could leave and share with them?
Oof.
I'm sorry, I gotta ask the question.
I've been on this thing of limitation begets limitless opportunity. And the whole idea of, and I think this really came as a result of the pandemic, but like all of these limitations of being stuck in your house, wearing this mask, if you really work it in the right way, on the other side of that, it's going to create collaborations and conversations. And, like if you do a fast and you're just doing like fruits and vegetables, this is just one example, that limitation is going to beget the limitless opportunity of you replenishing self, your skin looking beautiful, all of these different things. And so really grappling with just the diametric opposite worlds of what is limitation, but how we can really access that to be in abundance in our life. Um, so I don't know if that's helpful for you all, but or watching, but yeah, that's just something I've been thinking about. And then also just moving in faith and not fear. That's something that I've been saying, and I have to keep reminding myself, right, Shamie? Like, and when you're at a crossroads, it's like, how are we moving across this? Are we being faithful, and are we moving in that direction, or are we allowing fear to overtake us and then stop and just not move? And anytime that I know that I've moved in a faithful direction, it has opened up abundance.
I would just say be true to yourself and love yourself. Know that you are worthy to do what you want to do and to be who you want to be and to play what you want to play. You are worthy. Take the time out for yourself to mold that craft, or just to have a spa day, or I don't know, hang out with friends. Don't be so busy with everything and doing everything for everybody, and where you can't nurture yourself, because in the end, it's you that has to be you, to move forward, to be up on that stage, to play your instrument, to be a friend to someone. It's really you. So, really take care of yourself and reward yourself. Reward yourself, because God gave you a talent, and there's always doubts. Even us, we still have doubts as in our, doing this for years. All of us still come across situations where we're like, I don't know if I can do it. But then once again, you fight through it and say, you know what? But, I tell myself, God gave me this talent and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it to the best that I know how to. I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it. So always, be kind to yourself and not critical. Be kind to yourself.
I like that. I'm gonna take that advice. Just really quickly, I would say, know that it's a journey, and you should look for your happiness and joy within that journey. So it's not like I'm gonna hold my breath until I get to, nah, it's just make sure while you're going along, you're eating, taking care of yourself, all the stuff the other ladies just said, and you find a way to make it lighter, because we tend to make everything so dramatic and heavy, and it's like it's for the rest of my life, you know. And it's a time period where you're trying to develop, and if you're playing in music, you're always trying to develop. And right now, we're restarting, so everybody is going to be doing the same thing, trying to work on their chops, trying to see where can I work. Again, like Sean said, don't beat yourself up. And the other thing is to, if you see patterns in yourself, things that you do that you don't like, take the time to figure out where that comes from, and like really do investigation, as my little sis says. She's always like, you got to do your spiritual investigations, but it's true. You want to find like, damn, my father used to do that, and I don't really want to do that, and you don't have to do that, but know that you develop a certain thing as you are young and coming up, and there are things that we don't think of, and sometimes we're like banging our head against a wall. Why can't I figure this out? Don't beat yourself up. Just stop and look at what you're doing and see if that makes sense for where you're trying to go. So, and don't forget to reach out and thank and tell the people that you love them.
If I could throw in one thing real quick, you don't have to be perfect. This is about the love and fun of doing this music. So don't ever feel like you can't make a mistake and that you can not possibly do anything, because as long as you put your mind to it and put the time in and take care of yourself and do your work, you can do it. Okay. Thank you so much, Tia, Shamie, and Mimi for joining me today. I'm sure that the ladies out there listening are really, really happy and really thankful for you sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. Ladies, you can find Shamie, Mimi, and Tia online if you're trying to catch where they're playing or even checking out their music. Everything else is all on the web, so feel free to follow them, check them out. They all have great, wonderful projects happening. You definitely want to stay in touch with them and keep them with you as you're developing and your own personal journey. Thank you so much for joining me, Tia, Shamie, Mimi. I love you.
Thank you, Camille. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Camille. Thanks for having us.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. Hi, Fluffy Puppy. Say bye.
See you next week, ladies. Terry Lynn Carrington's going to be joining us. I'll see you next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Bye.